Hey guys, I want to take a second to thank Comfort Pro. Since 2001, Comfort Pro has been helping customers stay comfortable where they live, work, and play. They stand behind their work with a 100% customer satisfaction guarantee. They have 24/7 emergency service, and if you mention the show, you receive a free watchdog maintenance plan for 1 year. Call Comfort Pro at 484-917-1803. 484-917-1803. That's Comfort Pro. This is going to be a good one, Hugo.
The Brad Weisman Show. Real people, real life, and everything in between.
So what do your kids think of this?
Oh, they are so embarrassed.
In order to be unstoppable, you simply don't give up. You get knocked down, you get back up again.
Where curiosity opens the door to genuine connection.
Men really struggle with their emotions. They really struggle with even understanding what's going on.
Unfiltered conversations with the people shaping our world.
What kind of show is this?
And there's red quilted leather all over the walls. There's a swing hanging from the ceiling.
I don't sweat you.
And now, your host, Brad Weisman.
All right. Hugo.
Hello.
How you doing, buddy?
Good. I'm excited about this episode.
Yeah, me too. I'll tell you, I've been watching this guy for quite some time, and I have to tell you the thing that caught my eye, and you'll see it when you meet him and when everybody else sees him, is he looks like Jesus.
All right.
I mean, how could you not want to interview somebody that looks like Jesus, right? I mean, and then I got into it, and he's written several books, and a lot of it's about wealth. It's all about different ways of looking at wealth and how to make money. And that's the part that really got me. And I thought this would be great for our audience to look at things in a different way with making money and how to save money, and also how to have generational money, passing it on to your kids and having them pass it on to their kids, which is a different concept.
Yeah.
And it's all about what he talks about is the Rockefellers and how they do things. So that's what we're going to talk about that for the next 30 minutes. So so Garrett Gunderson is our guest tonight. Garrett, how you doing, man?
Brad, good to be with you, man.
Awesome.
I just love your energy. We're gonna have a good time.
Yeah. So now everybody has seen him. If you're watching the show, you see him. So you know when I said he looks like Jesus, that this is a real thing. And
Jesus, the guy taking a selfie with at Whole Foods at Disney Jesus.
Yes, exactly. That's hilarious.
Someone tried to I called him a nerd, and he's like, "Well, you're like GQ Jesus," thinking that would offend me. I'm like, well, thank you.
That's a great compliment, man.
What a compliment.
You should have just walked across the water at that point. That would have shut him up. Yeah, but no, I'm super excited about the show. I'm not usually, what's funny, I'm not usually geeked out by wealth building and obviously I love wealth and I love money, but I'm never usually, there's times where I look at some of these guys and they're just like, the way they talk, their mannerisms is just not fun for the show. But I started watching your Instagram page and I got totally drawn in because you have a personality that goes with the numbers and goes with the ideology that you have on this whole thing. It's really, really cool. And it's something that's not usually paired together is personality. And I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying that people that are into numbers and wealth and all that sometimes get a little boring. You are not like that. And the first thing I'm going to tell everybody out there in the audience is if you want to check out his Instagram page, usually we bring that up at the end, but I want to make sure I make a point of this, is check out his Instagram page. It's Garrett B. Gunderson, Gunderson. Amazing Instagram page. It has a lot of content and a lot of short little videos that you'll sit there and go, oh man, that's interesting. So
she's even watching it now.
What's that?
Wife watching my Instagram.
Oh, that's good.
Last time, she's got to be careful because last time she said I was kind of funny. I ended up doing a comedy special on Amazon Prime. I could, be extreme for sure. But yeah, she says that she's enjoying the videos on Instagram. That's the test. Can I pass my wife's test?
If you could let me know what you did to get her to watch your videos, I would love to be able to get my wife to do that.
Yeah, I think I just sent her enough in the DMs, all these other videos that it just started, the rest of them started following her around. And she goes, hey, these are good videos.
That's cool. Awesome. Let's dig in a little bit here to some of this. You have some interesting concepts, and I think a lot of it is probably concepts that have been around, obviously, since the Rockefellers. You wrote a book called "What Would the Rockefellers Do?" which I think is probably one of the more popular books that you've written. You've written several. You have, I think, 3 that were for the mainstream people, and then you have one that you wrote for kids, which is called "I Am Money," and we can talk about that a little bit later on. But the one that caught my eye, and it probably catches a lot of people's eyes, and it's not that it maybe is your best book, but it's the book that grabs your attention. What would the Rockefellers do? How did you come up with that? Where did this come from, this concept?
I was writing a book on insurance, as boring as that is.
Wow, yeah.
I was doing a webinar. I like to talk out the content sometimes as I'm writing the outlines. And then this woman was on the webinar named Sheila, who was a CPA for the Rockefeller family office. And she said, I'd like to talk to you because what you're talking about here, there's a lot of what the Rockefellers do here. And I was like, wow. So I had to restart the whole book once I began that conversation, because I was like, yeah, that's what I want to figure out. These guys are 6 generations at the time I wrote it, 7 generations now passing on wealth. What's the formula? And then I found out the people that worked for them have been passing on wealth for those generations as well.
Wow.
So there was, and then I just took the thought, how can I make this apply to a lot of people versus just the uber wealthy? Because yeah, sure, when there's ultra high net worth, there's certain things that only they could do. But then I found out there's things that any of us could do. And if you do that, you're going to stack the odds in the favor of your family passing on wealth for generation to generation instead of debt. 70% of people leave nothing behind or debt. So that's, I want to flip that around, have 1 million lasting legacies.
And very true. I know that firsthand because of being in real estate. We see a lot of homes being sold. That's their estate homes. And some of the families are struggling and making sure that there's enough money to clear everything with the sale of the house, and that's a shame, because people work their whole lives to own that home. And then it turns out that, they really don't even have that much money left after it's sold. So I agree with that completely. There's definitely something going on there that we need work on.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting with the Rockefeller family versus the Vanderbilt family, because it was a similar era.
Yeah.
I mean, the Vanderbilts came a little bit earlier, but completely different outcomes, because the Vanderbilts, Cornelius passed on 90+% of his wealth to his eldest son, William Henry, who doubled the estate in 9 years. But when William Henry died, it was the last time that estate grew. And in 1970, there was like 120 Vanderbilt people that got together for a family reunion, not a single millionaire in the room.
Wow, that's incredible.
The Rockefellers, when John D died, they're worth 1.4 billion. They're worth 11 billion now. So it's actually grown and continued. And they just did really 5 things really well.
Yeah.
One was they set up trusts, because Rockefellers always had this idea: own nothing, control everything. So the trust removes it from the estate. The Vanderbilts didn't have those trusts, so they had to pay tax when people would die. And then they spent the money because there's no set of instructions, where you can have a set of instructions in the trust.
Yep.
The second thing is the Rockefellers just bought insurance that would be around a day longer than them. So the death benefit would come in and fill the trust back up in case maybe the businesses didn't work out, or there was a high inflation time, or interest rates weren't cooperating, or taxes got high, because that was a way to pass that on tax-free. And then they just had a family office, which was a financial team that was cohesive, comprehensive, and communicating, which, I mean, when people have that, it's just, who can afford that? You had to be a billionaire to afford it back in the day. But thanks to AI and technology, we're able to provide that for people at a fraction of the cost, so that, someone that's just maybe only doing $500,000 of total revenue can have access to something that used to be $500 million of revenue was required. So, and then the next thing is a family retreat, just investing in your heirs, having the right rituals, which are the daily things that reinforce your belief systems. It's the traditions that bring the family together to have a deeper dive in conversation. And then the symbols. Every business has a logo. Why not have a family logo? I have a family crest, and in today's world, it's really easy to design those. I'm just a nerd, so I have a metal one above my mantle that my kids can tell you all about. We have it on our cornhole games. We have the little crest. We have it on our coolers, So it's like almost like, hey, we have cornhole and we have a crest. It's like white trash meets wealth. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just
that's pretty funny. That is pretty funny. As your beer cup is off to the side, and you're playing or whatever. Yeah, that's funny.
The final thing is just the family constitution, which is things in your own words that say, here's the signposts and guardrails I want from generation to generation, why we started the trust, what we hope to have happen with it, so that people know who you are. They know what's important to you. They know the main philosophies, and it's not just written by an attorney, it's in your own words. So
That's interesting. That's interesting. It's almost like a vision statement for the family. Or you know what I mean? That's really interesting on how this is how the Weismans expect the family to be running this trust or whatever it is. That's pretty interesting. And the thing that I think every time I think about these things, and it's only been a couple times where we've had somebody on that talked about the life insurance policies and how you can work your investments through there, and there's a lot of tax benefits to that. The thing that I think is, everybody's told from the time recently in the past 30, 40 years is the 401ks and the 403b for teachers and the doing the Roth IRAs and all this stuff. Are you saying don't do that? Are you saying do that, but then also have some discipline or have some other ways to protect the wealth as you grow it?
For the hands-off stuff, it's not the worst idea to just have those kind of things, but I teach a lot of entrepreneurs, and I think entrepreneur finance is a little different.
Absolutely.
I believe the entrepreneurs, their business is their wealth engine. And you wouldn't see Microsoft say, what we should do? We should diversify in an index fund. They buy capabilities. They buy companies. Yeah. Even Warren Buffett, who some people think he's a stock market investor, he's not. He buys businesses. They're just big enough that they happen to be a public company. And, and then he uses his methodology to improve the overall return long term. So I'm not really a big fan of an entrepreneur diversifying prematurely, taking good money from the business before they brought the right people and processes and putting in things they have no control or influence over.
I agree.
However, I've got people that, there's just people that maybe they're W-2, they're on a fixed income and they're getting a match. And so that's kind of nice to get that match and have something. I just wouldn't want to see all the money there because there's no financial independence in retirement plans.
Yeah.
I don't really believe in retirement as the main construct. I believe financial independence where you're work optional. You have enough cash flow from assets to cover your expenses. Now you have choice in what you do. If you don't, they get stuck in that. I got to save 10%.
You're a slave to your occupation. And nobody wants, and that's the thing. I just think about this morning and probably before when we were thinking about the show. And more and more, the word retire for me doesn't even make sense.
It means to take out of service.
What's that?
It means to take out of service, like somebody do to a cow behind the barn.
Yeah, exactly, with a gun usually. But seriously, it's like the word retire. But he's like, when do you want to retire? And more, it kind of like ticks me off. I'm sitting there going, and then you actually feel embarrassed sometimes to say, well, I really don't know if I want to retire. I don't mind doing what I'm doing. I think if it's not work, then you're not retiring. I could do this every day, all day, and it's not work. It's fun. It's enjoyable for me. And if I can make money at it, that's even better yet.
Yeah, there's blue collar people that want to retire. Like my dad was a coal miner.
Yeah,
I did that. But podcasters, like we're in a world where we're not in the industrial age anymore. So it's a different time.
Yeah,
and so we're still playing by the old rules sometimes. And here's the problem with retirement is people spend so much time trying to prepare for retirement, they miss out on life along the way.
Yeah, that's to me, and it's so true. It's so true, is that you're so consumed with saving money, getting it all together, and then thinking, oh, this is going to be great. When I get there, when I'm 75, I'm going to have a great time. I'm going to be able to do whatever I want. Well, guess what? What if you don't make it to 75? I mean, that's the reality of anybody. Yeah, we're living longer and longer, but thinking, saving up.
He just got in a car accident and died.
Yeah, exactly.
My business partners died in a plane crash years ago.
Wow.
We don't know what's going to happen. And if you miss out on memories along the way, you can never buy back those memories.
Absolutely.
I think the quality of life really should be at the forefront of finance, not as an afterthought one day, someday.
Yeah.
Part of it's just that a lot of financial people just think, oh, well, so you just got to budget harder. You got to save more. You got to scrimp. You got to sacrifice. I think you miss out on all the memories. You lower your energy because you're exhausted, constantly just trying to set money aside instead of investing in yourself, growing your skill set, enjoying life along the way so you have more energy and being responsible financially. It's not an either or, it's an and. It's
an and, yeah, it's right. It's balance. I mean, we all talk about balance all the time, and it's balance. And with balance, that means that you're always doing this. Oh God, I hate doing that because I think 6, 7 right away, and then my kids go nuts. And I mean, I shouldn't even do it. And they think, and now if I say 6, 7 at home, their dad, you're a geek because nobody says that anymore. So I'm sure you've had that in your household maybe at one point.
I had my youngest explain what the whole thing was, and I couldn't believe how convoluted the explanation was.
I think, though, I got to tell you, Garrett, I think every kid makes up their own shit. Because every time I've heard an explanation, my daughter says one thing, my son says another, and then I listen to another kid, and they're like, "Oh, it doesn't mean anything at all." Then I'm like, "Okay, well then, who came up with this? Somebody started it. I mean, it doesn't make any sense." But we'll stop there. We're not going to keep talking about that. Let's get into some of the other stuff here. When you're talking about the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers. You know, that to me was interesting because you had two seriously wealthy families. Like, we're talking most wealthiest in the world at that time. And the difference is that one was the Rockefellers were already doing something that nobody was doing. Is that really are they the first people to do this whole process?
They're the ones that I was in a documentary called Trust Me, and there were some other families that were doing somewhat similar things, but the Rockefellers really made it famous. Like, they really popularized the family office with having a financial team that worked just for them.
Yeah.
But other families were using trust before, and that was really important. And, there's some evidence of that. It was nice to compare those two families that are both so well known. When you hear the names, you know who they are. But there was a family that was like passed on wealth for 14 generations, which is really hard to do because that was before the time of like having, the trust that we have of today. And, we're talking about different countries over time.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. So they're not as famous. So not quite as appealing of a story.
And a lot of times you see the greedy kids or the kids that are entitled that will spend the money and it's gone.
Yeah, it's because the parents did a bad job. Like entitled kids. My youngest, there's been moments where I'm like, he seems a little entitled, and then I realize that's on me.
Of course it is. I've been there.
Lack of boundaries. It's not giving them. It's giving them too much and not letting them struggle with certain things. But the good news is he is a good kid, and we had the meetings and we made the rules and we made the changes because it was a reflection back on us. Because I was too busy to deal with it at the time, and don't deal with it, it becomes very expensive in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So then let's go into some of the other stuff here. And I actually want to get into, because I think the GE Electric story, the General Electric story was really good. And it kind of parallels with the Vanderbilts and what they were doing. Let's go into that story, because I thought that was really cool, because most people know who GE is. I mean, it's one of the biggest companies probably in the United States.
It was pretty fascinating that in 1947, they were wanting to recruit other talent to become number one in every category that they're working in. But in order to do that, they'd have to give something unique to these people because they were already working for their competitors. Yeah. And so what they offered was a pension. And say, if you come over here, we'll give you a pension. And so if you work for a certain number of years, we'll go ahead and pay that. And they're like, well, that sounds great. And the way they funded the pension was they bought life insurance on that person. And so the cash value could maybe supplement it depending on how long they worked and how big the pension was. It just depended. It wasn't the main part of the plan. Yeah. But what they did know would happen is GE would be around longer than that person. So when they would die, the death benefit would come back in tax-free and replenish all the money that was spent. By the way, there's a thing called dead peasants insurance that's what, not my name for it, but that's what they call with Walmart, because Walmart had in their contract that every single person that worked there, they would go get insurance on them. And a lot of people are like, well, how did they do it without their permission? I'm like, well, it was in the contract when they signed up. And a lot of times it's smaller policies because they're not getting blood work done necessarily. They're just filling out the basic information. Mm-hmm. So it might be guaranteed issue, but there's a lot of but it was interesting to offer this pension. And then Wall Street came in to GE and said, this is insane. Why are you only getting these like really low returns with life insurance? I get that it's tax efficient, but you could do better in the market. And this was in the 90s, and the market was just crushing it. I mean, the market was just doing so much better than these policies. And then the year 2000 came, 2001, 2002, straight negative years. And they had to still pay out the pensions, which started to really harm those pensions. And we saw so many pensions went bankrupt because they didn't manage them properly, because there's a thing called disinvesting. When you pull money out, when the market's down, it double dips it, right? Because it's pulling more out. And even if the market comes back, there's less to come back. And so not having that stability was a major cost. And we just saw that a lot of the companies kind of abandoned this initial process that GE used because of greed. And then what was worse, they said, hey, we'll just put it on the employees. We won't provide it. Okay, so you have world-class money managers because you have billions of dollars in your pensions. And now you're going to give it to someone that's got $140,000. They're not going to have access to the same level of managers. Yeah. And with the great managers, you weren't able to do it. Now we expect the average person to be able to do it. It's kind of a broken system.
It is. And it's interesting because pensions are pretty much, a non-issue now. Well, the thing with pensions now is that, the taxpayer, typically it's government, and typically if it's not funding itself, they just raise taxes and we pay for the pensions. I mean, that's kind of how it works now. It's a wholly different system now that the government got involved, of course. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting story.
I don't like money in retirement plans because I don't want to defer taxes. I like to save, not delay taxes. There are times it makes sense to delay tax, like cost segregation, where you're taking your accelerated depreciation. Yeah, take that, because you could always just roll that to another property. You could always borrow against it and not pay tax. You could even do a charitable trust and sell it tax-free and get a lifetime income off of it because you have strategy. But in a 401k or SEP IRA, how do you offset those taxes you delayed? And when people tell me, Brad, they got to be in a lower tax bracket in the future, you better hope you're not in a lower tax bracket, because inflation alone means you have more money to just live the same lifestyle.
That is so funny, because that's what a lot of people say. They do say, oh, I'll be in a lower tax bracket, so everything will be great. Well, no, it's not. It means you're making less money. I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're a lower tax bracket, that means you're making less money. And then if you're making less money, it's just like a whole vicious cycle.
People say, oh, well, I won't have to save for college anymore. Okay. I won't have to put my money in savings anymore. Right. But I live in a place where they just raised property taxes 20%.
Oh my gosh.
And there's a lot of people that have lived here for decades.
They're out.
And we've talked, they said that they're paying more in property tax than their initial mortgage 30 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
So the property taxes are higher than their mortgage. So if we plan on something and it's a moving target and we think, oh, we can have less, like people just think they need less because their advisors have failed them in actually how to provide more.
Yeah.
And the best way to get more is save on tax, not just delay it. Save on interest, not just pay it. Save on non-performing fees with investments, and you can get your money to go further faster. And design insurances where you don't have duplicate coverages or improper structure. And those four things, IRS, interest, investments, and insurance, is where a lot of money can be put in the bottom line without having a budget, without having to work harder, just using a little financial savvy and being efficient.
Those are your 4 eyes that you talk about.
Yeah.
You just did them. Look, you snuck them in there. You snuck them in there. Well, it's funny because I had those in my notes here. Let's go back to your. Then you have 3 books. So the first one was the killing the sacred cow. Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. I mean, that was pretty interesting. It says, one of the things I wrote down was you're in it for the long haul. The idea that you should sacrifice today's quality of life for a distant, uncertain retirement, which we talked about. So that a lot of what we talked about is in that book, Killing Sacred Cows. The other thing I thought was the dangerous dogma that you must take big risks to get substantial rewards. That is something we hear a lot, that the reason these people are so rich is because they have the guts to do it, and they're putting everything out there, and that's why they're making money. And you're saying that's not always true.
Risk means chance of losing. So how does increasing our chance of losing help us win?
True.
I actually think they're masterful at mitigating risk, at managing risk, at lowering risk. Because if I can have an asset create cash flow, that's less risky than saying I'm going to hold on to this for 30 years and hope it pays off in 30 years, because I can tell if it's working or not. The money's coming in. I can keep it in motion. Maybe saving tax. That's going to be a lot less risky than trying to double return on a retirement plan. So I think that risk, the less we know about an investment, the riskier it is. And risk isn't even in the investment, it's in the investor. So what kind of investor is the person? Some people are just brilliant at real estate, which means they do well with it. Other people aren't. Some people are brilliant in business. Other people aren't. So I think if people figure out their investor DNA, which is what are their values, the things they deem important, their competencies and abilities, where they have that aptitude, and then finally, where do they have the drive, where they're willing to learn about it, and focus there. And so pick an asset class, get really good at that asset class versus spreading yourself thin, and you can start to reduce the risk.
Yeah, you said in there about invest in yourself. I think was one of the things I heard you say on one of the clips that I saw on Instagram, and I thought that was that's interesting. One thing too about when you say about invest in yourself, it's the one thing that nobody else can be. You know what I mean? If you invest in yourself, you're unique in your own way, and if you invest in yourself and what you're good at and what you do best, that's what you should be doing. Hey guys, if you're looking to buy or sell a house in Berks County or beyond, let me know. This is Brad Weisman from The Brad Weisman Show. You probably know I'm also a realtor, but I wanted to remind you, if you have any questions or you need anything, please give me a call, 484-256-5836. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, if we get in this miser mindset where it's like, I got to save money, but we do it at the expense where I say people a lot of times will spend time to save money. Wow. And I'd rather spend money to save time so I can continue to add more value. Mm-hmm. And so if I take money and put it into myself first, grow my skills, then with more skills, add more value, dollars follow value. So instead of just taking the dollars immediately putting into savings, put it into myself first, grow my income, and then with that growing income, then learn to invest. Too many people are just in the wrong mindset where it's just save. They spend their time and then they're exhausted and they don't have any time left over for the most important things.
It's very true. And, and it's something, it's leveraging too. I mean, that's what it's about. I mean, I always said this, my neighbors they make fun of me and they've done this for 20 years and for many reasons, of course. For the one reason is I don't mow my own grass and I haven't for 20 some years. And they don't understand, they're like, well, why don't you do you not like it? And I'm like, no, I don't mind it. I know that for $35, I can have my yard mowed and trimmed and cleaned up every week, $35 to $40. And why would I spend an hour, if I hate it, why would I spend an hour and a half of my time out there doing that when I could be inside doing something that I'm good at, which is selling real estate or a podcast or working on a book or whatever. It's just fun. And some people can't see that, but I don't understand why I would be out there mowing grass, right. if I don't like it.
Right. I mean, it's because it's just another thing to occupy your mind if it's another to-do list.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even if you just spent the money to have that done so you can just have some leisure, there's value in leisure and enjoying life. I think that if you could create a life you don't want to retire from, that's the ideal.
Oh, I love that. That's great. That's great.
Start delegating those things. You're like, I don't want to do that long term.
Yeah.
I think that many people, sacrifice becomes habitual. Like they just wear it on their, like a badge. Like I'm just going to doing the things I hate to do so that when I'm too old, I'll finally enjoy my life, finally take that trip when I'm like all those memes where they're falling asleep in the boats.
Yes.
Venice,
I've seen those.
20 years too late, 30 years too late. We did a summer in Italy and it changed our lives.
Oh, that's
cool.
I
learned how to have leisure. I learned how to enjoy myself. I learned how to have long dinners. I was so used to just working all the time. It gave me it rewired me a little bit.
That's good. Good for you, man. That's awesome. Yeah, we did. I was on the longest trip I've ever been on, and it was only 2 weeks, and that was last summer. And we went to Ireland for 2 weeks. And I'll tell you what, I never thought I could go away for 2 weeks, and I did it. And then you know what? I loved it. We had a great time. It was a really good, really nice country to watch and see everybody there. So let's talk about the other things that I had in here, which was the family bank. I mean, go into that a little bit because I was on your Instagram and you had like all these different pages that kind of explained it. Maybe you can just touch on that a little bit before we wrap it up.
Years ago, my wife was like, do you worry about inflation for our kids? I'm like, yeah, but we've prepared. So, if someone goes and they get a mortgage, they're going to pay a loan origination fee. They're going to, they're going to pay title and other closing costs. They're going to pay appraisal fees. There's going to be a lot of stuff. I'm like, what if we just financed our kids' homes and they paid us interest to the family bank instead of to the other bank? So we just start getting the interest. And then every time they make a payment, that payment's helping their kids out.
That's cool.
And then we just finance the homes with the family from generation to generation. Now, the hardest part is the first generation because, you have the money to do it.
Yeah.
But when we die, we're going to have a big death benefit that comes in that could go into a trust that could be a part of the purpose of our family constitution is we're willing to finance assets. Now, we're not willing to fully finance a business because we think it's important for them to have some skin in the game and consider bootstrapping it. But when it comes to a primary residence, we have a few rules and restrictions with it. They don't have to make a 20% down payment, but they have to make some down payment. Or we'll cover the down payment, but they have to finance the rest through us. And then if they sell within the first 5 years, we get some of the gains back into the trust. If they sell after 5 years, they keep it fully because we're going to give them a preferred interest rate. We're going to make it easier on them. And so that's just kind of exciting. And then I just love the thought of my kids paying for a mortgage, knowing that that's going to help their kids out.
I think it's awesome.
It's going to finance their home. I remember the first time I thought of that, I was like, this is cool. I'm excited about it.
That to me is such a unique idea. And maybe just because it's the first time I'm hearing it, but I think it's really cool. And I think it really makes things possible for your legacy too. A lot of this stuff is, when we're gone, we're not here anymore. It's nice to know that your family, what you left behind Now, what they do with it after that, you can't control because you're not here anymore. But at least you know going out of this world that you've done everything you could to get them set. Not set for life, whatever, but they're set to be able to do what you did. To be for their kids. It's teaching those lessons and whatever. And I think that's really cool. Is that kind of what is in the book that you have for kids called I Am Money, which I think is great that you wrote a book for kids, because I think we tend to think that kids don't understand this stuff or that they're too young to grasp, anything about finances. And I think we're not right on that. That's not correct. I think that a lot of times kids can soak up a lot more than we think. So tell me a little bit about the kids book, and then we'll wrap this up.
It's about how to make money, how to save money, how to, basically give your money, like how to be charitable. So it's earning, it's savings, it's being charitable. But the main message of the book is they are their greatest investment, and they invest in themselves. And, and if they take care of themselves, then they can be generous. But if they don't, then they're going to be in scarcity. So it's teaching them responsibility and the fundamentals. What's cool is if a grown-up reads it, they're going to learn from it, right? So earn it, save it, spend it, and most importantly, how to give it away, and it's about money itself is the character, and it's got these fun little characters because Julia Cook, my co-author, is a phenomenal children's author.
Oh, cool.
Book. She made it. She speaks kid. So
she speaks kid.
When I wrote it, I was like, okay, yeah, this isn't going to be the most readable thing. And then she just flipped that around immediately. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm working on a book right now, and when you do I have a ghostwriter that's helping me write it because it's a lot of work. But it is funny how, they know what they're doing. When somebody is good at that, and once again, do what you're good at it and invest in yourself. And that's what they're doing. A ghostwriter or anybody that's helping you, they're investing in themselves, and that's how they're making, a good living or a fun living too. So is there anything else besides, we want to get back into the Garrett B. Gunderson is your Instagram, correct? What about your website?
GarrettGunderson.com.
Okay.
And then, if people want, what we talked a lot about what the Rockefellers do. So if they just put Family Bank in my DMs, I'll give them an audiobook of what the Rockefellers do, my most popular book. So we'll hook them up. That's awesome. And is there anything else that you want to tell about, any kind of the services that you have or anything that you do? Coaching? Do you do any of that stuff? Yeah, we work with entrepreneurs on their finances, get their financial house in order. It's financially fit. It's financial freedom, which is the mindset, which I'm teaching right after this. Oh, cool. Community. They get one-on-one coaches, but we have attorneys, we have accountants. So we have that full comprehensive planning. And we usually start with a discovery session where to get to know them with a report of findings, show them exactly what they could do to improve their cash flow and where they have, holes or their assets aren't protected. And then about 70% of those people end up hiring us after that process. And then we build out the team for them. So awesome. Love doing it. It's becoming so affordable from what it used to be when I started. We've been able to get price down thanks to technology, AI, and be able to add more value all the time. And so it's a fun process because I want to help create 1 million lasting legacies. That's what I'm here to do. When I talk legacy with people and they start doing that work, it lights them up. It lights me up. I get to know them in the most deep level. So that's what I really enjoy. That's awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on. I really enjoyed talking to you. You make building wealth and talking about money very interesting, and you have a good personality along with it. So it's actually very, very fun. All right. That's about it. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. All right. There you go. Garrett Gunderson. Guys, you got to look him up. Seriously, his Instagram page is really, really cool. It's easy to listen to. You'll learn a lot. He's got several books out. It's What Would the Rockefellers Do? He's got Killing Sacred Cows. He's got Money Unmasked. And I think he's also got I Am Money, which is for the kids. So check it all out. It's very interesting stuff, and it could definitely help you. All right. That's about it. Thanks for coming to see us every Thursday at 7 p.m. All righty. Hi, this is Brad Weisman. Come back here every Thursday at 7 p.m. to watch The Brad Weisman Show. We have new guests every single week, and we love having you as an audience. All right, we'll see you soon.